was on my way back to work during a heavy rain season. I took a turn at the bottom of a steep hill to find that the road wasn't there anymore. A flash flood had overtaken the small bridge that was normally there. I was going too fast to stop and ended up hitting the water like a log ride at an amusement park, minus the fun. I had no time to even react. The car stalled violently, and water was pouring in the air vents at a scary rate. This was the first time I was glad to have manual windows. I rolled mine down and realized just how bad this situation was. The water was less than a foot under the window, and I could tell it was moving far too fast to try to stand in. The inside was not any safer, as the water was now coming over the seat. I knew staying inside meant dying, so I climbed onto the roof of my little Mitsubishi Eclipse. The water was rising faster than I had ever seen. The whole thing felt like a bad dream, happening too fast. There were several bystanders at this point, on either side of the swelling river, all on their phones, looking helpless. I realized that the roof would not be enough. My car would be underwater entirely soon. If that wasn't enough, I could see an entire tree that had been uprooted coming downstream. This was the moment when bad went to worse. That tree was going to go right over the now submerged guardrails and hit me like a battering ram. I did the only thing I could think of. I forced my fingers down in between the closed driver's side door to brace for the impact. That tree hit the car so hard, it started pushing it off the road like it was a toy. The collision was so strong, my feet slid down, and the tree pinned my right ankle to the door. My car was pushed into a ditch that dropped down another foot and stopped against a support cable for a telephone pole. There I was, pinned to my car, with the water now up to my chest, and still rising. I spent a while like this, thinking, this is how you're going to die, and it's going to be slow and horrible. The water kept rising, to my neck, then to my chin. Straining to keep my mouth and nose above the water, I wondered if I should just give up. Would it be quicker? That's when I heard the sirens, 2 fire trucks and an ambulance. They backed the fire truck right to the edge of the ever-widening river, and a local tow truck hooked up to the front to help anchor him. It was the longest extending ladder they had, and it was still short, by a lot. They yelled to me over the roar of the water, showing me how they would throw a lifesaver hooked to a winch, and they wanted me to get my arms through it. I yelled back, "I'm pinned to my car!" The response I got was disheartening. "Where's your car?" It was true though. You wouldn't know there was anything under me if you had just got there. I pulled one hand out from between the door and the car. I knew I had to catch this thing, or it was over. I remember seeing the men in wetsuits preparing to retrieve me if it didn't work, and thought, this guy better have one hell of a throwing arm. Luckily he did, and I got a hold of it on the first try. I got the ring down over my right arm and the left side of my neck, and started yelling that I was ready. I could hear the winch winding up the slack, and when it drew tight, I felt pain in my trapped foot. I thought it might rip from my leg, but suddenly, my foot slid out of my shoe, and I was free. The river swallowed me, and everything was dark. Yet the water seemed so loud. I bounced off other random debris in this darkness, wondering if I would make it to the air again. Fortunately, I did. The ladder swung and lifted, raising me so high it made me dizzy. It was at this point that I realized how weak and sore I was. I felt my body going limp from the shock of the cold and exhaustion. They lowered me on the grass and carried me to the ambulance, cut my clothes off, and told me they had some bad news. "Your smokes are wet, buddy." I couldn't laugh. I wanted to, though. I promptly passed out and woke up in the hospital. I had only suffered some torn ligaments and minor bruising in the ankle that was pinned. I also had hypothermia, but whatever they put in the IV fixed that quick. The man who had thrown me the lifesaver was there waiting to see me when I woke up. I reached out for his hand and cried like a baby when he held it. I was accidentally given vecuronium in the PACU after I had already been extubated. Essentially, I was given a drug that causes muscle relaxation and paralysis after the hospital had already taken out my breathing tube. I was just lying there, and it suddenly dawned on me that I hadn't taken a deep breath in a while. I tried, and couldn't. I tried again. I absolutely could not move. No breathing, no blinking, no swallowing, let alone tell anyone I was paralyzed. I lay there for 1 or 2 minutes, convinced I was going to die. I accepted it because I had no other option. I remember thinking of my husband, 1-year-old daughter, and how I was dying at 28. I regretted not learning to play the piano and never walking with my family on a beach. My O2 sensor went off, and they realized I wasn't breathing. They used the ambu bag on me for 5 or 10 minutes before they did train of 4's testing and found out that I was 0 of 4. They administered the reversal agent, and I was suddenly able to move again. I was awake and conscious from my own respiratory arrest. I felt my lungs being manually inflated for 10 minutes. I heard every word, every theory being thrown out during the code, as they had no idea what was going on. I honestly don't know why I'm still alive. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. I'll catch you guys back here for another video tomorrow. And until then, just remember, it's always scarier if it's true.